Hey everybody, my name is Skye. Welcome to the Raw Foods podcast. I've got JJ here. Hey JJ.
Hey, Skye. Thank you so much for having me. I love coming on your show. Thank you.
Oh, it's our show, really.
Our show.
And today we're going to talk about how to cope eating raw. Both of us are raw vegans. It literally saved my life. It completely transformed JJ's life. She's written a book. I'm a health coach. We're both health coaches. And we can't stop sharing because it's such an amazing experience. But many times, I think we talk mindset. And we want to talk as many mindset topics as we can, but a huge one is how to cope eating raw. I actually think this is quite a huge topic.
Me too, because it's so important. Like it's one of the things I think that deters people from long-term raw diets. It's not necessarily always that you don't enjoy eating the food, but a lot of the social pressures and things like that, or not fitting in, definitely can play a big part, especially with a lot of the beginners that I've, you know, ran into in my coaching and everything. And I'm sure you as well.
Yeah, look, what I think as well happens is just say you have a disease, you've got, let's say, MS, and you've decided you're going to eat this way to change your life. But and you're very excited. So that excitement can get us into raw, right? And you
Mm-hmm.
used to eat meat and processed food and drink, and now you're just going to have fresh foods. It's very different for someone to get into a mindset for, say, 3 months or 4 months, because you can go, I can do it. I'll just keep pushing through. But I think when you have to face the reality that many people will say, including myself, that the disease or inflammation will just start piling back as soon as you go back to your old diet, people don't know how to cope. And a lot of people have semi breakdowns when they first go this way. And that's okay too. But one of the biggest things I say is, unless you're at like stage 4 of something, is I would spend, and what I do as a health coach, I work so hard on getting people to fall in love with their lifestyle, because I promise you, in even 6 months, 12 months time, they will be the people still chipping away at, well, the same lifestyle or little improvements, because they've loved it, as opposed to hopping on an addiction bandwagon where they're like, I'm going to juice, I'm going to water fast, I'm going to do this. And they're literally living for the quick hit again.
Mm-hmm.
Um, that's my take, is that you have to, and each individual will find a different way, live in different place, different diagnoses, different needs from food. But I just consistently see people who find a way to fall in love with it cope a lot better. um I can hear your cat there.
I know.
Oh, and then I lost you. You guys are going on an
Oh, it
expedition.
was just I wanted to give the cat her treats really quick. Gave her a
Oh,
little pat on the head, so she's okay now. I couldn't find them. I'm like, where are the treats? I usually have them on standby. That's her thing. Like she knows.
oh.
I know that she knows that's gonna get her a treat really quickly. Like I give
Well,
them
she
to her
sees you on a
anyway. I don't know
podcast,
why.
she just starts meowing.
She's like, as soon as I start talking to this computer, and she knows
Oh.
the difference because I'm on the phone for work too. But she seems to know the difference that while I'm at work, I might mute it and say, okay, you just had one or something. Now she knows it's just like
That's how
hush money.
smart she is.
They're very so smart. But well, back to what you were saying, I completely agree with you. And I think we have a similar, experience that we both fell in love with raw food. And that keeps our like motivation going to continue to do it. But also starting very simply and even transitioning can be so important to start to add those things to your life, trying, new things that you like, new raw foods. And people want to start on like level 10, and I think that is a good way to like deter things, because even if you don't continue to eat very simply, like maybe you start with some very simple meals just so that you can get used to eating raw foods. Even if you're still
Mm.
eating cooked food, bringing in the raw foods and starting to learn about them, starting to immerse yourself in the lifestyle. Like anyone listening to this, I listen to so many transformational stories and started to really get into the lifestyle, because when you're in your
Mm.
regular social life, it's very hard to stay motivated at first until you're completely bought in and figure out your way of doing things so you can be confident. So I never was a big fan of, and some people are, which is great because it worked for them, but like the cleanses and, like, we always talk about making yourself feel bad if you didn't stay completely raw. It's really about loving yourself first and realizing this is what I'm doing for me. It doesn't have to be what everybody around me is eating. But in order to really learn about it, you have to allow yourself time to adjust. And, like you said, if you're very sick and you're doing something, a protocol because of that, that's another thing. But if you're moving into this lifestyle to stay healthy and or try to even up level up your health and things, I think starting very slowly, working with someone who resonates with you, who encourages you, is so important too, and a community that's uplifting you and not telling you everything you're doing wrong, because you're
Mm.
going to hear inevitably in your day-to-day life when you talk to people, maybe at your job or your family or your other friends that you've had for a long time that have known you before you were a raw vegan. You're going to get so many criticisms, questions, whatever have you, and them telling you why they could never do it. And you have to really have that mental toughness to be a leader and say, this is something I'm doing for me, and embrace it. I think I've just went on like five different tangents, but hi, Carl and Megan, so good to see you.
Yeah. So when also it comes to this, is the whole thing, is I don't think you can stay doing something long term unless you do it for yourself. And it is very hard to do something for yourself but be on a protocol. And that's why I think you need some leeway there. So it's like when somebody asks you, why are you doing this? And you quote back someone else's information. You don't truly believe that. You have to experience the feeling, it feeling good, for it to be something that you highly recommend. Also, just know that I think the biggest thing I hear is confusion, because a lot of people, and it's not so much the YouTube videos I hear is confusing people, like many people do different videos, but it's all the statements underneath. I tried this, it didn't work, it only works if I include this didn't work, I needed to bring back this, comment after comment, and people are reading into it. What I found very helpful when I went raw, what I'd realized about myself is the brain has a very sneaky way of taking us back to bad habits without us knowing. Very, it will find a way. Just say you're not completely enjoying what you're doing, it will find a way to find a justification to now include meat or now include something. Like, we'll find a justification. And when I set my mind to feeling how good the raw foods made me feel, I kept following that. I didn't let what anybody else said deter me, and that was my decision, as opposed to it being, a lot of people getting in their head. The other thing is the doing. Is I spent a lot of time, instead of, because the brain can talk us out of things, instead of sitting and reading and I'm gonna do, I'm gonna commit. I knew that wasn't going to work for me. I just had to do. So instead of being like, tomorrow I'm going to include like 15 new things, I would, instead of thinking about it, using energy. And you'll know how much energy you use for things if you've ever done water fasting or juicing. When you want to really calm your energy, you realize how much energy you're spending thinking. Is it actually get up and make a juice? Because I'm doing. And I found the more my brain engaged in doing raw as opposed to thinking raw, it's got me here. So, like,
Mm-hmm.
and you don't have to drink the juice straight away, or you don't have to eat the dressing, or, you may order a bunch of food online and it's sitting by your door, or you chop it up and put it in the fridge. But the more I did, I really found a lot of my life, I'm like, I'm going to go to university and do psychology. Actually, even though I spent a lot of time at university, I actually think I spent more time daydreaming and thinking about becoming a psychologist than actually spending that energy doing. The same with
Right.
most things I tried in my life. I seem to become an expert because there's so much dopamine when you go online from things. And yes, things can support you. So I hear a lot of people in my comments say, um, I watch you, Skye, why I make my nightly salad. And I think it's really good to do something consistently and constantly, because it's every time you default, you won't default back to watching, you'll default back to doing. And that was probably a huge thing for me.
Yeah, completely agree. It was a little ritual, and I still feel that way now. It's like a whole experience with making food or making my salad. And I also listen to you while I'm making my salad because you're usually on with Kiko right after me.
Yeah.
So it's, and a lot of evenings you have like that. Somehow our time zones line up like that right
I
at my
have
dinner
breakfast,
time.
you have dinner.
Yes, or I would say, well, you're still on because that's amazing. So I think immersing myself in that and really starting to enjoy the fresh food and the preparation of it. And, I just make a salad. It's not even like I'm putting together really a lot of creations, but someone like you really have learned how to put things together and create these flavors and things like that. And that's what we mean by creating a way that it works for you. But just like, when you first start out, exploring all of that. Don't try it one way and say, "Oh, this isn't working because I don't like JJ's type of salad." It's very easy to do that when we want to like self-justify, but when we really try to figure out a way to make it work, like when we say I'm going to do this, we usually do something. When we take the try out of it and give it a chance, like I think it's easy to go back to your comfort zone in so many cases, but it's you also want to make it your comfort zone. And so it's kind of
Yeah.
like you're toppling between, okay, I'm using this, I'm building a muscle because it's not my normal. But all of a sudden at some point, and this happened to me, and I think you've told me this happened to you too, somehow, just like if you found like I don't know what people would equate it to. Like in the movie, you ever notice they'll find their soulmate, let's just say, right? It's like when I started experiencing raw food and I started hearing about it, and it just seemed like it was right. Like it wasn't anything like I had ever been before. I grew up standard American diet, a very meat centric world. But once I started experiencing raw food and really starting hearing about veganism, even, it felt like it was who I was supposed to be and who I am. So I made it work. I make it work into my life. It doesn't have to be a struggle when you start to allow yourself to immerse and enjoy what you're doing and understanding it's all about really being kind to yourself. And sometimes we
Mm.
haven't grown up always with people being kind to us, and we sometimes might even not be kind to ourselves. So it's almost like breaking that barrier of realizing I'm doing this for me, not for anybody else. So when I
Yeah.
feel awkward that I'm not eating like everyone else, it's okay because that's me. We all have our own fingerprint, right? Like it is who you are and who you were meant to be. And that's another thing I really believe I had to stop trying to really over explain or try to push people into this lifestyle, because you find something and it was like this miracle that happened and I was so excited about it. And I still do that. I still share my journey and share my story, but you have to realize that just the way you came into it, everybody has to come into it. And I think seeing the world is hard too, when you feel like you healed something. So, I want everybody to. Oops, I lost my light there somehow.
Yeah, and I think a lot of our identity is tied to other people.
Hmm.
So, like when I think about going into veganism and feeling different, my experience, I was in hospital a lot of that time, is there was this angry component because everything felt so different, but I'm not sure I was still eating for me, like what served me. And then when I went raw vegan, is essentially at the start, I still wanted to change people, but then I realized how much more working on myself was impacting the world. as opposed to trying to kind of like begrudgingly be like, you're sick, you're doing it wrong, these are all your problems. And I also thought a lot about, and I can look back to a lot of photos, even like baby Skye or sick Skye, like really sick Skye. And it's like, that girl probably wanted a hug and a talk before I shoveled down a green juice and a salad in her face and told her she was doing everything wrong. And that's when it made me think deeper about having compassion, well, for my old self, which is those people who I'm around. And I feel I change more lives being more compassionate.
Mhm.
But when you first go raw, before you make your raw identity, because that's what we want it to become your lifestyle, your identity, is everything does tell you not to do what you're doing. So if
Mhm.
you make it through, you essentially become a superhero because you've overcome the world. Like you literally
Yes.
walk down the street and people are eating foods and you're smelling them and you're seeing them. And you have to face the fact that you're never having that again. And I guess in a way, I never faced that because I was like, well, I'm going to go home and make it raw. I was like,
Mhm.
I'm not facing that.
And
So
luckily you brought that to everybody, right? Like we can all just get your recipes
yeah.
offline now. And that's awesome.
Yeah, so but it's like everywhere you go, every sign, every billboard, every advertising is telling you to eat cooked food, and you have to keep saying no. So that's why you find a way to cope. For me, it was creating at the start, it wasn't so much recipes as in it was hitting flavor and texture notes in a bowl. A lot like we spoke about before, where you don't have to make a taco, you can do a taco salad, or you don't have to have the whole pizza, a pizza salad. And I use those kind of techniques as well to get over addiction, where my brain really didn't cope well with all of a sudden one day I'm like, I'm never drinking, I'm never smoking, I'm never vaping, I'm never all these things again. So I'd meet myself halfway where I'd fill up my coffee cup with tea and go to the same seat I would every day, play the same music, almost imagine that I was halfway doing it, and it made me cope a lot more. And that's the same principle. If you are going raw, you don't have to go fully raw. You are going to notice massive benefits just eating whole foods with raw food, and you'll start to notice the more raw food you have, the better you feel. And that's your learned experience. And yeah, but it does that. That's why we all have to find ways to cope. And for me, is I can do very simple, but I still need flavors and textures to remind me of the old things I used to have.
Yeah, and I think also we talked about this a little bit. I think was it last one or the one before when we talked about the abundance mindset. And all of a sudden what happened with me is I started learning about raw foods and eating raw foods and just adding them onto my life, and I started wanting to walk towards them instead of, like you said, worrying about what I was necessarily, like, quote unquote giving up, because obviously I was giving up things that didn't serve me because the back pain went away, all the allergies and the weight loss, and I felt better than ever. But it was also never my focus of what I was giving up. It was always like, what can I have that's raw? What can I have in these categories of fruits, vegetables, nuts, seeds, sprouts? What can I create with these salads that I'm making? And it's almost like simplified my mind to not have to overthink it. I didn't have to worry every day about, was I eating something good or bad, or was I portion control,
Mm,
things like that. Just it really simplified my diet for me when I was starting to see the results. But you have to like do it long enough to see the results, and also playing with the ratios. I was hungry at some point and I needed to add avocado to my meal to keep going. At one point, I had to, after dinner, I would have some walnuts or whatever I had for my dessert. It was like you had to almost get your head around that portion control of the regular diet crazes or whatever that happens out there that I had been on my entire life, because I was in my 40s when I started this. So, it's like at that point, I was like, wait, I can eat more. I don't have to like starve myself to be on this quote
yeah.
unquote diet. And then I started finding, wow, there's so many things I can eat. And it just started to become like you said, like like part of your life, but it's now I have memories of these big salads when I first started, but instead of remembering things in my previous life, I'm now able to nostalgically look back on the beginning of this journey. But it's the difference, I always say, between people who succeed at something and who don't, or just they do it longer and they figure out these ways to weave and wind to make something work. It's just there's not one way to do it necessarily. And I think that's where we do something and then we give up because that's JJ's diet. That's not, it's a good starting place. You have to model something if you're brand new to it, but find your way to do it.
Yeah, I also remember when I was really sick before I got the FND and couldn't really get online or read a lot, is how much I would gravitate towards talking sick and being in sick people groups and only talking to people who were as sick as me and being in hospital talking to sick people. And when I started to heal, I realized if I wanted to become well, I had to talk well. I had to be well. And as much as it's great for people to remember their why, and do remember your why, don't let your why consume you, because it'll lead you back to debates in your own head as to, well, this isn't doing fast enough. I have this. There's new studies out that say adding something in particular, collagen or something, is now going to fix me. And then you jump across there and then you chat to all the people who also have MS or whatever it is, or in my case, FND, and that's all you could, and you back and forth like, oh, I've still got that symptom. I've still got that problem. I am a problem. Before you're just consumed by, well, but I call it darkness.
Mm-hmm.
And to see the light and become the light, I realized I had to have a healthy brain, and a healthy brain for me is around healthy minded people. And
Mm-hmm.
I still struggle to this day because I wasn't around people a lot of my life, like 15 years straight in a bed, 25 years kept going back to bed, missing out on a lot of things. But when I'm around people, I want people, no matter where they are in their life, to be like, I love this. This is lifting my spirit. This is, because it drives you into more of a love life. You will not stay doing raw if you are staying in a whole lot of negativity, because it'll start to wind in on that. You're like, well, that is kind of irritating my gut today. And this, you just find a whole lot of things. So a huge thing is that, and this is why a lot of people, and I like to give the example of people who have been drug addicts and their whole life has been at pubs or in like drug den type situations, and these people are like really their friends, and you think that you care, but you've really trauma bonded, and
Mm-hmm.
you have to let go of a lot. And it's the same when you've been very, very sick. If you continue to talk sick, I promise you'll talk yourself back into it. And it is, once again, about really breaking away and finding yourself. And I always say to people, this is what I did when I first met Roy, is I never said never. So anytime I let go of salt and nuts and seeds for a while, and didn't do some practices for a while, things that I used to do. And well, the drinking and smoking, I said never again, but things that I wanted to explore deeper in myself, which I have salt and nuts again now, but I would say just not now, because it can
Mm-hmm.
get very overwhelming to say never. I think there's some things you've got to say never for, but if there's people that aren't serving you, you can take a break. Go
Mm-hmm.
assess and see what it's like to not have them. Don't be like, never again. This person means a lot to me. Just be like, how do I function without this in my life? And start to learn different facets of yourself, and then bring that new self back to the situations and people, and see how it impacts you.
Oh, I completely agree, because the minute we start trying to, escape something, it stays forefront in our mind. That's actually where our focus is. And
Mm-hmm.
I just am actually right now editing a video that I made about how, I was talking to someone and they were doing really good. They were raw for a couple of days and then they ended up just feeling devastated. Like I had a candy bar, and I think it was probably around how, one of the holidays or whatever. And she, was very upset, but she had done so many wonderful things for her body, even that particular day, right? Like we can get so caught up in, being angry with ourselves and forgetting to just keep the focus on what you're doing for yourself. Don't put it in a good box, bad box. Just continue to want to keep piling in the good, whether it be, I'm going to go get some sunlight today. Don't, I get caught in this sometimes. I'm like, oh, I feel bad because I didn't work out. But when my body craves wanting to work out and I'm doing it freely, that's what I want, right? Like, I want to be doing it because it's something I want to do. We don't always want to be constantly, punishing ourselves, and I'm not perfect with it, but for the most part with the food, I've definitely gotten that down, because in the beginning, if you someone, even if it's you or someone else, like, say you look up online, like I always talk about the beginning of my journey, my dressings weren't completely raw. They were store bought, or whatever. It didn't say raw on it, but I never put together, like, for me in the beginning, if I didn't put it in a pan and cook it, or a pot, or the oven, it was raw food. And I think that actually ended up serving me really good, because in the beginning, if I had been so excited about these salads, and I mean, I was losing weight, I was ending my pain that I had had forever, I'm getting all this hydration, I'm drinking more water. And if someone had came to me and said, well, you're not supposed to drink water and your dressing's not raw, it might have really deterred me and said, oh, wait, I'm doing it wrong. I better just, justification. If you feel bad, just go back to how I was doing it so I can
Yeah.
feel good about myself. And so I know what I'm doing again. And I think it's so important to not really allow other people to have that level of control. And it's hard as a beginner. And that's why I love our community that we have, here, and in your group on Facebook and everything. It's so uplifting, and we really try to, in both of our communities, make sure that we are always giving positive, encouraging advice that the person wants at that time, and taking from
Yeah.
what you did good. If you ate raw food once this week, that's amazing. That's what we want to
Mm.
build on, not everything that you think you may have done, quote unquote, wrong. I always say that because no one's doing anything wrong. It's just, we're all trying to move forward.
Yeah, I also think people really need to think about, if someone, like, for example, myself, creates a video for an hour and 45 minutes, does a live talk for that long, and shares a couple recipes, juice, information in my life, things that change my life. And then someone finds, what could be something I said, I dye my hair. I might be like, I'm doing all these things, and I dye my hair. And so out of an hour and 45-minute video, out of all I've given, someone gets on there and comments that, you have to remember where that person's at, that the person has seen a whole package. It's the same as the salad, right? Is just say the salad's all raw. You've got all these fruits and vegetables in there, you've done raw all day, and you put sriracha on the top, which is totally fine. I don't even know if it's vegan sriracha on top.
Right.
Okay. And the person's like, decides to comment, and you're like, I've done this raw day, I've made this raw salad, I've been raw for 30 days, and they're like, sriracha's not raw.
Yeah,
You
that's
have to
terrible.
personally remember that you've just presented a package of beautiful information, and this person's found a needle in a haystack of negativity. You have to remember how negative a person has to be to find that much negativity. And that's what I always tell myself is, and I say it in the comments, I'm like, out of all I just shared, that's what you decided to actually write a comment on. And it makes you more self-aware. And it doesn't mean, I don't even think these people are bad people. We go through ebbs and flows, but it's all about you. You have to remember what you present to. And you don't, we put on social media, and social media can help us even stay raw. But when you live your whole day, or your 30 days raw, and you decide to have a candy bar, remember the whole package. Don't
Mhm.
focus on that needle. And just because the needle will turn into a big wound, you've stabbed
Mhm.
yourself with your needle. Let it be a needle. Let it go. Who cares? You'll laugh
Yes.
about it 10 years' time. You'll be like, I remember going first raw, and I was putting sriracha on, and I still use sriracha, but that candy bar didn't serve me, and laugh it off, because
It's part of your journey, right?
Yeah, but also is the lens you're seeing this with, is the lens you're seeing the world with. So when I see these people that once again comment this negative comment, very sadly, this lens is how they see the whole world. So they might be doing really good for themselves and absolutely just slamming themselves daily.
I agree, Megan. Raw is a way to be healthier. If it helps you stay healthy, then it's all good. Exactly. When you start looking at it as healthy, and that's why we're all doing this, not to, pick thing, like you said, I had to delete a comment today, and it's like it stings for a minute, and I'm like, same as you, like, okay, but how many people did I help with this video than this
Yeah.
one, guy who probably isn't even interested in being raw, like it's like they just come across it sometimes online. And when we don't understand something, that's not the way I handle things, but so many people do. If they don't feel aligned with it, they lash out at it. And I have to, we always have to understand that moral justification that people use. And once you really take that out of it and take a lot of the emotion in that way out of it and just keep moving towards your goals, you are getting healthier every day. And be proud of it, be happy and excited about it, because you should be celebrating yourself. There's so many people in the world who never take a step towards getting healthier or learning any of this. It's amazing that if you eat 50% raw food, that's higher
it's
than half
beyond.
the world, right?
More
Like,
than half the
or
world, more than
whatever. I'm not great with my math.
99.999.
That's why I was an English major. No, I'm just kidding.
Like you are so, if you even eat 50% raw, you're like a superhero. If you do one
Exactly.
meal a day raw, you're a superhero. But I just wanted to bring out some of these questions here. So, do you have vegan cats? So before you answer that, I just want to say that I don't know if your cats are vegan or not, but cats are carnivore. So they eat meat. So go for it.
I don't have vegan cats, and I would love
Yeah.
to explore healthier options, because I also, wouldn't be opposed to it. I'll be honest with you, I just don't know how, and I've had the cat for so long, at this point. So, yeah, I'd be open to exploring any options, but at this point, they're not. Unfortunately, it does. They are, like you said, a carnivore, but I do know that I'm always looking for healthier options. They're like our kids. If I could find a way to make it vegan and also healthy and it was satisfied, that would be perfect for me as a vegan.
Sure. I think it's like different with dogs because dogs are omnivores.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not a stretch for them. But with cats, like their whole digestive tract, including their teeth. So you'd have to, yeah, definitely be careful with that. Um, I love balsamic vinegar. I know it's not raw. Oh my God, if balsamic vinegar helps somebody eat fresh food, go
Yes.
for it. Like that's your skin of
Exactly.
choice. You're doing amazing.
Please go for it, right? If you're coming from how I was like, eating a salad was not something I would do regularly. So eating only salad, whatever dressing I was using, I was happy with.
Yeah, and I let's talk about this for a second because I know I don't really come to my parties anymore, but Kat and Sean, they're the tattoo artists. Do you remember them? And they do amazing raw recipes.
Were they on your raw food part, like the party
Yeah,
online? Yes. Okay. I
they've
didn't know
come
if you
to a
met in
few
person, but I
parties.
think I remember them. They had
Yeah,
the juice that one time I was
yeah,
there,
they
I think.
juice a lot. They
Yeah.
do juice a lot. So they've done a 40-day juice cleanse, and they're raw chefs. And somebody asked at one of the parties, what are your everybody's like limits, or they're like where they allow things as a raw vegan, and they said it's sauces. I don't know what sort, just vegan sauces. Like they're fine with doing all raw, and if they want a bit of vegan sauce, and I think that's fine as long as you feel good and it works for you, and like it's not the end of the world. Like if it's almost like when I travel and I will grab a vegan plant milk to have
Hmm.
my matcha with. It's for like a week. I prefer my own milk, but I had to get myself in that headspace that Skye, you can't travel and start making milk in the morning. Like it's not like you need to enjoy, but like I found that like yeah.
I feel like one day we're gonna see a traveling video of you making milk in a hotel somewhere. I feel like now we're gonna see it, right? You always are with us at breakfast, unless you're traveling
Yeah.
here. We'd all be having breakfast if you're in the U.S., right? We can all make milk for
Yeah.
breakfast. I saw that joke online. They always say like, "Oh, I'm vegan, so I had to get up early to milk the almonds or something," right?
Yes,
What are you gonna
look,
do?
fresh milk
People
is
find
best.
any way to make fun of us, right?
Yeah, fresh milk is 100% best for me. Everyone is different, but it's not something I'm going to get upset over when I'm like, all I do is look after myself. But it's up to each person.
I haven't been
So
having any milk or milk as I used to buy from this one store. It's the best kind because it didn't have any of the gum, it was gum free and everything. And it
yes,
was actually MALK. And I think it looked like I was making a typo all the time, but that's what they called it. Instead of milk, it was milk. But I've been hooked on these medjool dates. So I haven't been having my smoothies for dessert like I used to have the banana and walnut. And I'm like, I just love these things to have them for dessert when I want something sweet.
that's good. I love that. There's a lot of comments coming through just about here. I just love koala mamas as well. Bring this up. Oh, hang
Thank
on.
you.
Megan's saying raw is way healthier. It helps us stay healthy. It's always good. But like the reality is, this is the thing, right? Is I do raw so I'm not sick. If I start, this is why my recipes only have a couple ingredients in it, because if I start winding myself up and get stressed, I get sick. And that
Mm-hmm.
defeats the whole purpose. So if someone's like, I buy my pickles or I buy my sauce and I do my salads and I make my juice and I make my smoothies and I have some sauce so I don't have a nervous breakdown, I'm like, that is great. And that's about coping with being raw. It's like coming onto raw. It feels, it's second nature to me now. But when you first come on, you might have to go through a process. It doesn't mean you're a bad person. It's like starting kindergarten and say, well, why don't you know algebra and why don't you know Latin?
Yeah, like
And
learn to have fun with it first. Like we don't go to kindergarten and start learning calculus. Like draw
yeah,
some pictures. That's what you should be doing.
draw
Learning to
outside
have
the
fun with
line.
it, right? Trying some things and enjoying these foods. And obviously, day 1, 2, and 3, you're still going to be probably craving what you used to eat, but you have to kind of play the role for a minute. But by like 3 days, a lot of people tell me, and including myself, I was really getting into it and starting to enjoy the raw foods the way that, keep finding ways to enjoy it.
Well, that's right. It's like when a kid starts kindergarten. I remember when I started kindergarten, I was so excited. I'm going to big school. I'm going to big school. But then once you're there, you're kind of like, well, I want to be back home playing on my swing set. It's
Hmm.
kind of like the same thing, right? Is like you get into kindergarten and you've got to learn to love it. You've got to do all the things. Otherwise, you just don't want to be there. So it's,
It's
uh,
funny because I go into a story with my mom. She brought me and I didn't want to go. When you're a kid, you don't want to leave your mom. And I got there and saw all these pencils and coloring books and things. And I loved to do artwork as a kid. She said I just like darted away from her, like, okay, see you, mom. I'm good. They got all kind of cool stuff here and building blocks. But it's like that. You have to want to walk towards it instead of worrying about I was
you
leaving home.
do.
you
You
know
do that.
Yes,
That's
it does, Megan, in my opinion. And I agree, Rocky.
it.
It just
It's
does make me
I
disgusted.
think that's why I talk about love your lifestyle, find it, because otherwise you are like that kid at school who just doesn't want to be there because you're learning something new. So does meat make you disgusted? So it does. But here's a story. When I first went raw, I could not feed my mum's dog whatsoever at all. But now I can. Not so much do I do it very often, but it's like there's a part of myself I had to make peace with, in that I used to be, eat meat, serve meat. And it's not that I like it in any way, but I'm not as like hating on it. Does that make sense? Like I found it was really toxic for me to hate anybody who was around meat, because that meant family members. And I remember a girl posted a video on Instagram how she's like, I don't like associating with people who eat meat and it's just not
Oh
for me
no, I'm
anymore.
not quite there. I
And
definitely love the
yeah,
people. I just can't pick up a piece, and it does not, like you said though. I see what you're saying. I can be around it, like with
yes.
others if I have to.
Yeah, and I said to her, I said, "But what about your family?" She goes, "Oh no, I love my family." And I'm like, "Well, it's the same sort of thing. Is like you don't because I found it really toxic for me. I why I did was because of who I used to be. Is I think I would have healed with love, but if someone threw some cure at me and was like, "Well, if you don't do that, you basically or do this way, you're a piece of crap," it would have broken me more. So that's part of, but that's my um,
Yeah, I think
uh,
we have to help move people from point A to point B by inspiring. And I think having compassion would work a lot better for me than, I had to learn things in layers with this lifestyle. Like, I didn't even know what vegan was. I just was saying I'm raw vegan because that's what the documentary said that these meals were that I watched. So then I ended up seeing something from Dr. Milton Mills about dairy on one of the, when she got in the vegan pages. So I learned about that. I had no idea, like I was already acting and doing the lifestyle, but it's like then I learned about, farmed animals, and it just unfolded in layers for me. It wasn't, I didn't come in ethically as a vegan, but I learned about it through diet. And I think some people come the other way because I have a lot of people now that I talk to that are vegan and they're now adding more raw foods like me because it's like, oh, I didn't even realize the health parts of it. It's like such a interesting lifestyle. There's so many like facets to it. I think we all have, things that we can learn within it, but we all have that core thing that we want to be kinder to ourselves and to the world.
Yeah, I'm just reading in the comments there as well, just about supplements, and I just wanted to say that I hope everyone's aware that plants can only hold nutrients that are in the soil or the precursor nutrients which help the plant synthesize, like a vitamin or mineral. So it's not that you're bad if you need a supplement or you choose to take one or the plant doesn't have one. It's only has what's in the soil. So somewhere in Australia, we are very blessed because Australia is only just over 200 years old. We have not had a whole lot of soil degradation. I do notice the taste of plants is very different overseas, but they've had years and years of industrialized areas which change the soil, or where your particular tomatoes are grown maybe near something that's hindering the tomato synthesizing a larger amount of something like vitamin C.
Hmm.
So it's just like I feel like people, like if someone's like, I'm a raw vegan and take vitamins and I take magnesium at night and B12 and I have had a couple iron infusions, and it's like, you're amazing. Do whatever makes you feel your absolute best.
Yeah. We're all at different, places in our journey too. And we all come from different, you know, lifestyles and different deficiencies that we may have had coming into the lifestyle. So I choose not to make blanket statements when it comes to things like that, when it comes to supplements or, obviously there are truths to everything everyone, says, because some people said, well, like you can make it, to your point, yes, but if you're not getting enough of this from this particular fruits and vegetables, then you may not be able to. So like for me, I just feel like it's best to take each individual and allow them to make that decision, because it's important to research and know that it's not a bad thing, because if you take, a supplement, it doesn't mean you're not a good raw vegan or whatever's, people try to say in some cases. I would just try to take an approach that puts your health first, and whatever that means.
100%. I say this: choose love. Like, choose love every time. When you go to make a statement to somebody, choose love. If it doesn't bite you in the butt right away, I promise it'll come back and bite you in the butt later. Like, somehow, anytime I've started to see something negative in somebody, somehow all I do is sabotage myself as if it was something undealt with. So I choose to find the love in the situation because I'm choosing to find the love in myself. And it's like, the example is when someone presents me with, just say somebody saved somebody's life. and they eat meat. Some people can see them as bad person because they eat meat, yet they just saved, might have been out in the surf and they saved somebody's life. You're choosing to see not the love. If you choose to see the love, I believe people see more compassion and love, and it supports me. The more love I see in the world, the more I feel I'm getting like hugs off everybody. Every day it helps me cope. Whereas I think when I first met Raw, especially the first 2.5 years, is you get a defense mechanism up where you kind of be like, that's wrong, that's wrong,
Mm-hmm.
that's wrong. And I had to make peace with that. They're all just different versions of me. I used to be these people. I may go through a stage where I go through something similar again, and I don't want anybody to be like, you're bad. I choose love.
Yeah,
So
I love that. I definitely completely, I think if we always come from a place of loving one another, it's like we in this world sometimes we want to pick out our differences, but let's like look at how much we're alike, and like
true.
I just did a thing on B12, and it is very confusing because, as a beginner, it's very like difficult to hear all these different things and come bring yourself outside of that and just really research it for yourself. It's so difficult, but I would say to do that and think about it, like you said, in love for yourself. So, that's the important thing, and for others. Like, I love what you just said. Yeah, it doesn't, I wasn't a bad person before I was vegan. I can 100% tell
No.
you that. um I feel like this is where I am like perfectly aligned now, but I didn't know it at the time, so I certainly wasn't, um not thinking I was a lovable or a good person. And so I would never, like, when I go to say something, I'm like, would I want someone to say this to my family or my best friend? And that's
Yeah.
how you can approach it too, I think. And that's how you can
Yeah.
speak out of love, the people that you love the most, how you, choose to express yourself to them. Because I don't want to make anybody feel bad. I want to make them feel good. And if making them feel good brings them over to this side where they're able to experience raw food and veganism, it's so hard because when it gets into the veganism thing, we're also worried for animals, and so it's a lot going on there. But if we speak from love, that's really what it's all about. So we don't want love to turn into anger.
Yeah, no, 100%. And I just think that when you can see love, it can take you further. And with, like I always say, is so when we harm in any way, we end up not being vegan. So if you are eating, you're like, I can only afford hot chips and beer or hot chips and ketchup, and because of that, you end up on a whole lot of cholesterol medication. Well, those medications are tested on animals. If you're rushed off to hospital, that machinery, all of that type of stuff. So we inadvertently send ourselves back. I just have not found a way where love doesn't win. And especially like if everybody watching, including you, JJ, including myself, is uh, meat eating Skye or Skye who didn't have a lot of self-care, she kept the ball going. She is the reason I can talk now. She's the reason I'm still alive. She's endured all that pain. She has lessons to teach me every day. I've come through that, but it's not that I can just ride her off as like a piece of crap. I'm like, she had, obviously had strengths that have carried on, or I learnt through that part of my journey, and I'm grateful for those. So
Absolutely, we're grateful for it too.
yeah. So yeah, is there anything else you wanted to say on the topic about how to cope eating raw? I say love. I say love, 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 love. But love is like something
Love.
huge for me.
Love, abundance, be kind to yourself, and just keep moving into raw food. And don't be hard on yourself, and learn to enjoy it. Like, I think that was one of the main messages. We want to enjoy our life and enjoy what we're doing, and so make a way that you can enjoy it however it works in your life.
That's right. All right, guys, we will see you next week. Thanks for joining. I am about to jump on with Kiko. And what are we talking about? Oh, raw food hacks. All the
Oh,
hacks we've
nice.
used accumulated to make our raw lifestyle. So,
I was just thanking everyone in the comments. Thank you, Megan, for your
yeah,
amazing
thank you,
comments.
guys.
Schwinn Schwinnauer, Koala Mama, Rocky, thank you for being here. And I feel like I'm missing Carl, our friend that was here first. I saw him.
Yeah,
Thank you. And
we
thank you,
love our
Skye.
family. Bye, guys.
Appreciate you all.